Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode of Goose Chasing with your boys, David and Dino. Goose Chasing brought to you by TAGNBRAG and TAGNBRAG Productions. Also brought to you by TAGNBRAG Apparel. There's a sick hat on the website. You guys
Click
can
your
still
bill.
go. You guys can go to tagendbrag.co and check that out. There's only a couple left. I'm getting some crazy interference in my earphones. I can hear stuff and then I can't. Hopefully y'all can hear it. But we are also brought to you by TAGNBRAG Land Management. There is better hunting in your future. Let's build a management plan together. Shot my first longbeard in Tennessee here not too long ago. Monday morning, early afternoon.
Oh yeah, tell us about that.
That was fun. It was fun. It was a grind of a hunt, that's for sure. Uncle Jay and I were hunting a new piece of property. I think he deer hunted it maybe 3-4 years ago, but it's been a minute since he's been back. Got some feedback from the landowner and just kind of went off that to start with. Heard some birds out of the roost. They were cackling, hens were cackling. They must have met up. They shut up for a while. We moved our set we probably walked back about a half mile through the hardwoods, kind of up and over some hills and shit. Got to like this power line, had a beautiful red clover field on it, and so we set the decoys up there, sat there for a couple hours, just calling every once in a while. Didn't hear anything, didn't see anything, but we had what seemed to be a perfect setup, and we ended up going all the way back to the front of the property, or making our way back to the front of the property at around like 10:15. Got to a certain point in this road, and Uncle Jay kind of peeked over and literally hit the deck, and there was birds, I don't know, probably 100 yards in front of us on the road. He had the tail feather in his hand already, and he, God damn it, these fucking headphones are pissing me off. Anyway, he just kind of like peeked the fan over the hill, and he kind of like peeked his head up and like looked through the binoculars of the fan, and the birds were coming at us. I mean, like, he thought they were hens at first, and he's like, there's 4 of them and they're coming at us pretty quickly, and I'm like, dude, there's no way those are hens coming to like the tail fan.
No.
So they crept up on us. I have the 4th arrow monopod with the camera sitting in front of me, and I'm sitting in the middle of the road, like not a road, but like, of one of their paths back there. I'm in the middle of it. There's no cover around me at all. Uncle Jay is at least behind the fan, so like he can cover himself a little bit, but I am sitting out in the middle of nothing. And these jakes come up and over the hill. I mean, they had to be 10 yards from Uncle Jay. And he's like just waving the fan back and forth. And I knew like they're seeing me. Like they want to come up to the fan and just like hammer them.
Like
But
there's a human.
yeah, they can see me in the middle of this road. And I was shocked at how long they stood there and gave it up. Like, and then they didn't get spooked or anything. They just kind of like were like, this something is weird. And so they turned around and they walked and they got like onto the road, like where they could literally see me like plain as day. And then they just, walked kind of down over the hill, and Uncle Jay kept peeking up and over, and they ended up in the hardwoods off to our right a little bit. But it was crazy. I mean, if that would have been a Longbeard, he could have dusted one for sure. And who knows what would have happened, like, once he dusted one, and then, I mean, at that point, all hell would have broke loose. But we were making our way to a ground blind that this guy had, that he said, if push comes to shove and you guys don't see anything or hear anything, or you don't get an opportunity by 10:30 or 11 o'clock or so, get to that blind, and a lot of times the birds will come out into that field, which was I mean, it's a huge field, a lot of visibility and stuff. So when we got to the blind, Uncle Jay set the decoys out. We sat in the blind for, I don't know, another hour and a half probably. It was a little after noon, and I had a call at 12:45 that I had to be on, and then I had another appointment here in Nashville that I had to be back for at 2 o'clock. So my plan was, regardless, to just do my call on the way home and then, go right to my appointment. Well, it's like 10 after 12. We're about to wrap up. I mean, we were done, and this hen comes out behind us, and she's in the field, and she's feeding along with the decoys, like just 20-30 yards from the decoys, feeding. Then another one comes out, then another one. All of a sudden, there's 4 hens out there, and they're just feeding around. I'm looking at my phone, and I'm like, it's 12:15, it's 12:20, it's 12:25. I'm like, well, this 12:45 call is all but lost at this point, and it's like 12:30, and they finally start making their way back towards the hardwoods. All the while, like, when we saw the first hen come out, we heard a very, very distant gobble, like behind us in the direction where these birds came from. And then after all 4 of them were out, we heard another gobble, and it was a little louder. And so naturally, we're like, maybe something's coming. Well, we're sitting there, and like a couple of the hens made their way back into the hardwoods. There's still like 2 of them, I think, out into the field. And dude, this gobbler comes from behind us, charging the decoys. I mean, literally comes out of the little hedgerow behind us, probably 15-20 yards, maybe.
And
But then
before that, he hadn't making a peep before the last gobble.
no, I mean, the last gobble we heard was a couple hundred yards away for sure.
Yeah.
So he didn't make a peep. Dude, all of a sudden, he's freaking Hussein Bolton towards the decoys. He comes within 10 yards of the blind, easily. And it's like, it's not a 360 blind, but like it's 180 degrees of it, like literally from the floor to the ceiling of the blind, you could see through.
Yeah.
So you could see, like, I just hit record on the camera, and this thing comes running, like, right next to Uncle Jay in the blind, and just runs right out to the decoys. Uncle Jay's like, do you want to shoot? And I'm so flustered, because I'm like, I got the A7 in my hands. I got the other camera in between my legs on the monopod, but we were packing up, so it wasn't stuck all the way into the ground. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, like Ned, yeah, I want to shoot, but now I can't. So like, he's like, do you want to shoot? And I'm like, I will. And as I'm saying that, his gun barrel is going out the window of the blind. I'm like, all right, well, that changed pretty quick. And so he's like, get ready, whatever, is cam ready, this and that. Well, I look over, and another one is coming out from the same spot, running towards the decoys. So now there's
Oh my
2
God.
gamblers out at the decoys. I'm trying to get the camera, the monopod into the ground so it'll stay steady. Meanwhile, I got another camera on my lap. Uncle Jay's hollering at me to get my gun. And I'm like, it was insane. It was like inside the blind was complete turmoil at that point. And so finally get our shit together. I get my gun out the blind, and Uncle Jay's like, I'll take the one on the left, you take the one on the right, 3, 2, 1, let's just hammer them. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. I'm like, you kill one, we'll figure it out. I'll get a shot at the second one if I can. Let's just kill one, and we'll see what happens. So they finally separate. Meanwhile, they were beating the shit out of the decoys. Like,
Yeah.
the tail feather of the Jake, the whole fan went flying off. The Jake is literally spinning, like, fast. And the turkeys are kind of just like looking at him like, what the hell is going on? The tail feather gone.
Tails off.
Tail's gone. He's spinning like he's on a friggin' merry-go-round. And and all the while they're still so like fired up, they're going back and forth. Well, they finally separate. He shoots the one, and both of them bust out like into the air like a covey of quail. One of them goes right, one of them goes left, and his bird is like flat, kind of like hobbling away. He gets out the blind and hammers this thing again. The other one is way off to the right now, and he had stopped at like 50 yards. So Uncle Jay's hollering at me like, I'll get, give me the camera. He got on him. He's like, get out the corner window and shoot him. Well, this thing I finally get my shit together and get the gun out the corner window. And as I do that, this thing sees the other one flopping on the ground and literally does like a 40 to 50 yard beeline back at the other bird. And he's running, running, running. I mean, fast. You'll see it in the footage. I mean, the YouTube video is out now, but he's flying, hauling ass back across this field, past the decoys, gets to the other bird, finally gets like, slows down in his step a little bit, pokes his head up, and I just let it rip and dusted this thing.
Folded.
Got both of them. It was friggin' insane.
Wow.
It was insane. Yeah, I mean, it was cool. It was a cool hunt. Putting the whole hunt together yesterday as I was editing it and just kind of reliving it. I'm just laughing at all the scenarios that we were in and the kind of different stages of the hunt or whatever. But yeah, it ended on a high note, that's for sure. And my first ever Tennessee bird, first double with Uncle Jay, and yeah, it was a good start because obviously we're going up to New York, or we'll be up in New York by the time this launches. We'll be in New York and having our way at Camp Cutlet for the opening couple days of the season. So
some turkey hunting in the future. So you didn't make your call, 12:45 call.
No, I literally hammered that bird. I had to send a text right away and say I'm not making this call, got to reschedule. And then I literally, by the time, we got extra footage, we got the birds, we got all of our shit together. We had to go back and get a unit, get that, fill it up with all of our shit, get back to the trucks and stuff. I literally had to make a call on my way back home to Nashville saying I'm going to be late, 10 minutes late to this appointment that I had at 2:00. So, that wasn't the first time that hunting has completely ruined plans and screwed things up, but for good reason. And
won't be the last.
It definitely won't be the last. That's for sure. So
on the board early in Tennessee, that's pretty badass.
Yeah, kind of crazy. Actually, weird because it was 1 year. Actually, a day after the 1 year mark since we've been down here in Nashville. I don't know what significance that really has, but yeah, it was cool. Cool to get on the board. The Charles Daly turkey gun I bought last year is 2 for 2. I've taken 2 shots out of it, and I've killed 2 birds. And I'll knock on wood right now.
The old CD.
The old Charles Daly is deadly on the run. So I'm looking forward to getting out and doing some more chuckling.
Hell yeah! Well, I am too, and it'll be we'll be facing a few challenges as the next 6 days in the forecast look like a monsoon.
That New York precipitation never disappoints.
I think we did have a saying last year. We did WBC, what bird cruising.
What? Well, we've had that saying for a while with the bucks, WBC, wet buck cruising. But yeah, wet bird cruising.
You develop things like that when you hunt in Chautauqua County, New York, where the precipitation. Well, it's funny. We've had these streaks of beautiful weather, but it's like when it decides to rain, it's like let's rain for 8 days straight.
Oh my
Why
gosh,
not?
it's always a soaker, man. It's crazy.
Or when it wants to snow, like, hey, let's snow for 8 days straight.
It's that place is amazing because in the summertime it could be 90 plus degrees, humid as shit. In the
Sunny.
yeah, sunny and green. Everything's green as it could be. I mean, the food plot behind you, case in point. But then you get stretches where it's like you feel like you're in the Amazon rainforest, or you feel like you're in the freaking tundra of Lord knows where, and you're buried in snow. It's just that the climate change at camp
It's extreme.
from a year, like throughout the year, is insane. It's
Yeah,
insane.
it is a place where the wildlife, like, they have to be very effective and efficient actually utilizing their growing season resources to survive the winter,
Oh
honestly.
my, oh
Like
yeah.
in Ohio and stuff where like the deer, I mean they still do that, but there's usually food available all year cuz yeah, we might get a snow, might be snow for a couple weeks, even a month, but then it melts and then everything's exposed again. Green grass and all this stuff in New York. I mean, yeah, they have to be well prepared, well stocked. The reserves have to be there because we get into a deep freeze and they're eating hemlock needles for 60 to 70 days. And
Which is
they got to
insane.
survive on that.
But it's insane also that they can survive on that. I mean,
Yeah.
that to me is incredible. Like, deer are incredible creatures regardless, and no matter what state you go in, and their will to survive, their will to just yeah make it at any cost. But up there especially, it's a different beast, man. They not only do they obviously have to survive the hunting seasons, cars, predators, all that stuff, but the climate and what it pushes them up against for a couple months out of the year is insane.
Yeah. It really is. Really is nuts. And then when we get these built up snows, it's like most places it could snow a lot and they like deer just figure out ways to dig to the ground, like dig to the grass level if they have to get food. But in New York, what happens, or at least where in Chautauqua County, what happens is we'll get 14 inches of snow and then it might go up to 40 degrees for like 2 days. And that 40 degrees creates this like glacier
Yeah,
on the in that layer of snow. So everything packs down to like 8 inches, but it's super thick.
hard.
And then it might drop to 11 degrees for like 10 days straight, and that literally becomes a glacier. And then we'll get another 14 inches of snow. That happens again, and then we'll get another 14 inches of snow. So it doesn't matter how hard or deep these deer dig. Like there's just times where you can't get to the ground. Like it's you can't get to the ground.
That's why they're
So
eating pine needles. Think about how many pine needles you have to eat to fill your belly
well,
to make a difference.
the amount is one thing. Like those, they're not doing that during the summer, so they obviously taste like probably shit. And there's probably not a major nutritional value there. So that's not even, yeah, it's just crazy. But they're gonna take what they can get at that point,
Yeah, they do.
and they do. But yeah, it is crazy. And then you gotta the whole like. There's times where there's 3.5 feet of snow on the ground. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. Like stuff that a large tractor can't even make it through. And yeah, it's like what are these deer? The
Yeah, I
effort,
mean,
the effort it takes, the calories to burn just to move any amount of distance through this stuff is a lot. So you have to take that into consideration of what they're trying to bring into their body, but then
yeah.
they have to expel that to walk through this insane. I mean, this crazy deep snow, and they utilize they literally make trails and they only use those um, to get
Well,
from
and
A to
that's
B.
why, like when you're shed hunting, you see those, like it's literally like a foot to a foot and a half wide, beat down trails, and there is deer shit.
Like
It looks
there's no
like somebody,
gaps.
yeah, it looks like somebody just covered. It's like a little deer road, and it looks like somebody just covered it all in deer shit.
The
But
whole thing.
yeah, but that's and it's hundreds of yards of that.
Yeah.
More like looping around through the hemlocks and through because I mean you realize that under those pines is probably the least depth of the snow and
Yeah.
also they're eating the pine needles so
Eating the
like they're
branch.
not moving far at all and they're getting the thermal the thermal cover and the thermal energy
Yeah,
from
getting
the
out of the wind and
but
it,
man holy
it's so
shit.
funny. These deer have nothing to eat, and then just Mother Nature's way of damn it, my camera fell off. Not fell off. My camera turned off. Hold on.
No, but I mean I think what you were going to say is mother nature's way of providing for the animals like when the real heavy snow comes in the pine branches that are normally 6 8 even 10 feet off the ground are now 2 3 and 4 feet off the ground and they're accessible
To the
to
deer.
those deer
Yep.
so it provides in the summertime the branches that these deer are eating on are unreachable to them.
Yeah, they're like 8 to 10 feet off the ground sometimes.
They're unreachable to us even probably. But in the wintertime and when they get the weight on them and they will stay that way for a long time because for whatever reason those pine branches just the
Snow.
hold the snow and so it provides for those deer which is yeah, it's pretty incredible how mother nature works and you notice those things when you get out and enjoy it, every once in a blue moon.
Sure do. It's very cool to see because just 2 hours away here in Ohio, at least, like you don't see that. So
Yeah,
it's
you
just
don't.
crazy the climate change of Western New York. But when you look on those maps, like the climate maps, like even the planting zones, it's funny that from here to there changes to
It,
a different
yeah,
zone.
couple
And
weeks.
it's I always wonder like how do you figure out those maps and stuff, which I get it, like you just go to average temperatures and all that, but constantly if it's literally from my house here, it's an hour and 35-40 minutes to Camp Cutlet. If it is consistently 7 to 8 degrees colder there, usually no matter what.
Yeah,
No summer, winter, like if it's 45 degrees here, it will be in the upper 30s at Camp Cutlet. So it's a totally different climate. And it's pretty crazy to experience that and just it's not far away. So you don't think it's going to be that different, but it's different.
oh yeah, way different. I mean, and you
See,
go you go 2 hours south of you in Ohio,
it's another different.
even more different.
Yeah, we'd be at Ohio State. I remember like talking to dad or something on the phone. It would literally be 62 degrees in Columbus and it would be 45, 44 degrees up here in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah, it's just part of the snow belt and the weather coming off of Lake Erie and stuff like that.
The jet stream.
It's a different ball game up
That's
in there.
that's what's going to happen this weekend. Is unfortunately that jet stream dips a little into the Ohio Valley, and unfortunately that brings us the that Arctic bullshit weather and moisture.
Yeah, I
We're going to be
mean,
getting some lake effect showers and all that crap.
no, it's gonna we're gonna get some flurries.
Oh, we're going to get some flurries. There wouldn't be hunting. You know, some of our most successful hunts, at least deer hunts, always come. We always say it in the adverse weather. Like literally, go back to all of them.
Yeah,
Which
let's run through them all. I
which
mean,
ones are good? Which ones are
Don,
good?
the first like good buck over the stretch that we've had over the last probably 7 or 8 years. Don hammering
Nasty.
down, nasty, like hard pellets.
Hadn't seen him in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, Dad, it was in and out of a blizzard. Dad saw him and then didn't see
Literally,
him
literally
because he
couldn't
couldn't see him.
couldn't see 20 yards in front of the blind because it was pelting snow and ice so hard. Uh,
Fucking the next, I'm trying to think of like trying to reel this out. The original Sventech hammerings, just
25-mile-an-hour northwest wind,
in
hammering snow.
freezing. I mean, literally by the time you got him, by the time we got him, and then we got him back to camp,
It
he
starts
was
covered in
covered with
snow. Yeah.
covered in snow.
It looks completely different. The way we took a few photos in the backyard at camp, and it didn't even look like it did during the hunt. Everything was white.
No, I mean, Sventech, Godfather, both hammering. I mean, Sventech was the day before was it was cold as shit. It was snowing.
We had just got a shit ton of snow. It just
Yeah,
stopped.
right. And then the Godfather, the next day, it was a mess.
Horrible.
It was a
Again,
mess.
wind and that northwest blowing wind.
Yeah. And
Cold,
then
cold coming in.
I'm trying to think. I mean, Hook, Dad shot Hook. That it was a rainy pissing day during that day. Um, I'm trying to think of like I mean, I like this year, like Neil was probably a little bit of an exception, but
Neil
Gary
was just
Clark
was a. I mean,
was a rut.
yeah, it was just a November 6th, middle 1 o'clock in the afternoon,
Rut hunt.
dog and a friggin' doe. And I was just, I mean, I honestly, I could have been in a million different spots in the woods, and so could have anybody, and he would have
Right.
run by you. It's just
At
about
some point.
stopping them and getting a shot, and I was
Make
just
it.
lucky enough to do that. So, um,
But yeah, him and Cartman were the exception. Same thing though. Cartman was on the run. I mean, like you saw him that morning, a half a mile from
yeah,
where I was. The deer was he was out and looking.
yep,
But I mean, Gary Clark Jr. It was raining.
raining,
Nipsey was a
shitty,
friggin' blizzard.
yep,
A break in the storm allowed that to happen. I mean, even Bernie from this year, like it got done snowing, but it was
just bad
hammering.
weather. Was bad weather all day, all the
Yeah.
previous night. Yeah, it was bad.
So it is crazy. We always say the adverse weather brings out the big bucks. Well,
W- WBC.
hopefully WBC holds
That
true this week.
that brings us back to WBC.
Wet
Replace replace the buck with the bird.
wet bird cruising.
Does
Here
that
he comes.
apply? Does that apply to turkeys? We will find out.
The native North American turkey.
I mean, they still gotta. They don't get to go into a house for a week until the rain passes. They still got to be out there. So if
That's
you want to
true.
kill a bird, you got to get out there too. The worst part about it, honestly, I don't mind hunting turkeys in the rain. The worst part about it is like usually the birds look like hell if you kill one. You
Well,
know,
yeah, I mean taking
that's
pics and
that's the
because
worst.
it's a beautiful animal, so it's like yeah,
Yeah, you want it to. Yeah, it is a beautiful animal, and it's
like might as
yeah,
well take that thing in the shower with you and then go take pictures with it. That's how it is.
yeah. The sights you get to see turkey hunting is part of the is part of the whole.
Experience.
Yeah, it's just part of the rush of it all and the beauty and the sport. And
Oh, I get it.
usually they still strut pretty in the rain. But
I hope they do.
yeah, when you kill them and then they're just rolling around the wet grass and then you try to fluff their fan out, you're just like, what am I doing? This looks like
Soggy cutlets.
it looks like this thing got electrocuted and I'm trying to freaking it's fried.
Speaking of that, and going back to our turkey hunt from this past week, and honestly, some of the questions from the viewers on like I don't know why this week we had a couple people say they wanted us to talk through hunting trends, good, bad, indifferent, whatever, and just kind of talk through some of our, whatever feedback. But one of the ones I've been seeing a lot of it lately too on social media is reaping, and it's like I'm actually shocked at how many people are against reaping a turkey.
Why are
Like
they why against it? Like
they
like
think it well
like it's not going to
I,
work or they think it's wrong.
they think it's wrong,
Why?
and because I guess what I have grasped from it because turkey hunting is a vocal, is a vocal thing, is a communicative thing. It's basically like tricking the turkey. But I'm like, well,
Okay.
I mean,
No, I
yeah,
mean
I don't even.
No, I can see it. I mean, I can see the point, I guess, but um,
I personally think it's awesome if you can get a bird to run from 100, whatever yards away, and close the distance in less than a minute, more than likely, and like get to a point where they're steps away from you. I don't know.
well, it's what anybody. It's just a style of hunting. Like
Yeah,
there's nothing in in any regulations that talk about like, oh, you have to use calling tactics to kill turkeys. Like if you love the art of talking to a turkey, which is unbelievable, and people that are good at it are it is a
it's
unbelievable.
an art.
It's an art. It's unreal to experience it too, especially if you're not good at turkey hunting. Experience somebody that is like actually talking back and forth with even a hen. I think that's almost cooler than like let's make a crazy hen sound and then get the gobbler to gobble back. I think it's almost crazier to like talking back and forth with a hen.
I
Um,
agree.
but of course that's an art. But if another style is, I mean, if you can get behind a tom decoy and get a bird or numerous to run at you and literally try to like attack you, like they're hunting you kind of now,
Not kinda. They are.
and that's an insane adrenaline rush. Like that's insane. You can't even explain that until you experience it. Like I know they're turkeys, but have three turkeys literally running at you while you are behind a freaking plastic or whatever it's made of decoy, and you're in the
Right.
middle of a field. You're not behind a tree or next to a tree, or most of the time you're not. Like that's an insane feeling. And if you're knocking that, you probably haven't done it. That's usually how hunting works. Tactics that get knocked haven't been tried by those people. Um, but again, I'm not saying it doesn't matter if you think it's right or wrong. There's nothing in the regulations, I don't think, anywhere that you can't
That's
reap turkey. So there's the only thing you can't do in most states is use a live decoy, which I don't even know anyone that's ever even tried to do that. But if you can convince a turkey that your plastic freaking or foam, whatever the hell it is, blow up is a freaking real turkey, then you're doing something right. So they have the best eyesight. That's what everybody argues with turkey hunting is the hardest part about them is they can see anything. That's why filming them is so hard because you got to hide the camera, you got to hide all this crap to people. So if you can convince a turkey that you're a turkey by sight, then God bless you.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I want to get behind that fan.
I think it's harder to convince a buck that your decoy is an actual deer than it is to convince a turkey that the decoy is real.
Well, based on their reactions, for
It
sure.
seems like that the deer part works, the deer decoy thing works a lot less than the turkey decoy thing works,
Which, yeah, I
which is
mean,
weird because the
based
turkey's
on
eyesight is incredibly better than the deer's.
right. And I mean, I think in the right moments, the animals attract animals regardless. But we always say this, like, and it took North Dakota for me to really like realize this. But deer attract deer. Deer are curious creatures. If there's a deer standing out in a field, and another deer pops up another field over or whatever, a couple hundred yards away, like deer are curious. Deer will attract deer. That deer will eventually make his way over here and see what the heck's going on and why there's another deer standing over here. Maybe there's food, maybe there's water, maybe there's whatever. I don't know.
They
But
likely will, unless there's a deer somewhere else that they see,
yeah,
but they'll probably make their way to that deer.
deer deer attract
it's
deer. Simple as
it's got to come down to scent, just because the deer are like the scent. That's got to be what prevents them ultimately from the decoy thing.
yeah.
They're so good at
But they got to
sensing.
well, I mean they got to get downwind of that
Yeah, but it just
for
yeah. Maybe I've not hunted with deer decoys enough to. I just haven't seen it work enough to. But yeah, I think hunting with turkey decoys is it's fun because it doesn't. There's nothing it doesn't work every time. It doesn't work half the time, honestly.
Well, yeah,
But when
it could easily deter.
it
Um,
easily deter, we've shit all
but
last year in New York, it at least from what I experienced, it never worked. Like turkeys definitely saw decoys I was using. They didn't like run, but they didn't come in.
yeah, they kind of just
But,
elude.
but when it does work, it's awesome because you get to see them interacting with what they think is a real turkey. Most of the time it's the fight, and getting to experience that is insane. Like
Yeah,
when you
like
just
we
call a
just
turkey in, they're normally strutting and drumming and shaking back and forth. Well, it's just badass too. But to get to see them like want to challenge is pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude. That's why this hunt this past week with Uncle Jay was so sweet. Because I mean, I've seen turkeys react to decoys and having them work before, but I've never, and I've seen it obviously online and all that, but I've never experienced them hammering a decoy, like jumping up and literally busting the tail feather off of it. There's pieces and parts of the decoys going every which direction, and they're still on the damn thing.
Yeah.
Like they're still attacking the thing. Like that is insane. So, like you said, I mean, I
What
love
is that? I wonder what that feels like. Because
and
sometimes you almost can't. You can't really. You're so focused on the bird, you can't really see exactly what they're doing with their legs.
right.
And that's where the damage is coming in. And obviously they have the spurs, but a lot of times it seems like they just like jump up and kick, like side kick them,
Yeah.
but they're doing something with their spurs, and it's gotta be not it can't feel good.
No, I mean, I
I
I,
would
I
not.
was wondering the same thing when I'm like, man, in like a real life situation, like if this was a real turkey, and it's now 1-on-2, because we had two gobblers come in and they're both hammering that thing.
Yeah,
It's like, why? Like, what propels them to do that? Like, I mean, like two of them on one, like these two are together and they're boys, they're
yeah.
cool, but then they're hammering this one, but then one of them gets shot and the other one
Wants
runs
to.
to the other one and he wants to hammer that one.
Yeah.
Like
What is the thought
what
process?
what what switch flips to make all of that happen? it's
I
it's
I
it's
never
bizarre.
understand that. So yeah, you are boys. You're cruising together all day, every day, strutting together. Like when there's hens around, I know they fight. Like they obviously fight probably right at the time of breeding. If like they both want to breed that hen,
For
but
sure.
most of the time they're just strutting, following the same hens, and they're not like you know. Sometimes you see them like one's trying to get in front of the other one, like, but they're not fight. They're not jumping up and hammering each other. It's something you don't get to see very often, is my point. And it does happen in nature. Same thing as breeding. The hen doesn't. You don't get to see that a lot too. And decoys give you that opportunity, and it's pretty damn cool.
Pretty damn sick. But I guess getting back to the trend or just things, maybe trends that we don't necessarily like, trends that we like. One thing that really chaps my ass is when somebody is like on, their Instagram or they're on TikTok or they're on, they're in the middle of a turkey hunt and then they're trying to explain what's going on or they're just, or they're celebrating their bird and they got their friggin' diaphragm call still in their mouth.
Oh my
And then,
god,
dude,
why is
take
that
it
such a
out. Take it out of your fucking mouth. Like you're rolling that thing around. You can hear all the
the most disgusting? Nobody wants to hear that.
yeah. I don't want to
Nobody
see
wants to
your.
hear
I
that,
don't. I
and
don't want
nobody
to
wants to
see
see
your.
it.
I don't want to see your drenched, nasty ass coffee filled mouth call in your mouth as you're talking and shit to the camera. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. Like, just take it out, man. Take it out. That shit pisses me off so bad. It's just like, they're like they're like,
Well, it's a, just a. This is.
and then they're like, this is what you do.
I've probably done it before. Um. Yeah. No. That's just a little bit of a.
It's a
It's
pet
a.
peeve of mine.
Well,
Sorry,
yeah.
man.
It's just a little bit of a. It's just like a showboat kind of thing. It's like almost like an ego thing a little bit. Like it's like you want people to know that like, oh, well, I'm using a mouth call or I can use a mouth call. So I'm at an elite level of turkey hunting because I can use this mouth call and I am using this mouth call.
And I
So I'm going to
will.
keep it in there to make sure you know that I'm using this mouth call.
I'm the
And
King
if
Tom
I
of this
know that
bitch.
you know that I'm using this mouth call, I feel better about turkey hunting because that I know that I could use this mouth call. And
And
in
I can't.
reality, just because you have that thing in your mouth does not mean that you can use that mouth call.
And the reality is, when he came, I striked up a box call, and he came running into my decoys, and then I shot him, and then I put this thing in my mouth.
And then
So
I
it looks like I
shoved.
was using this diaphragm call, and really, I was just using my box call.
Hold on there, Gary. Let me roll this thing around in my tongue really quick.
Let me get it. Let me get it saturated a little bit.
Let me lube this thing up a little bit so everyone knows that I've been using it. And then let me, while I'm talking, Gary, I'm gonna jam it sideways on the left side of my teeth, so it's perpendicular with my tongue, and then I'm gonna talk to everybody.
And you're gonna see the corner of it sticking out of my
And you're
mouth.
gonna see this bright green thing or whatever color it is. Everyone's gonna see it, and they're gonna be like, "Damn,
You don't
that dude,
mind looking at this wet fucking diaphragm call sticking out of my mouth while I'm talking with
that
you, Gary?
person is hot," because they can use a mouth call. They're hot.
It's like, yo, I don't want to taste your fucking mouth call.
Listen,
And you're a little close to the camera or you're a little close to me, and I could taste your mouth call.
yeah.
So take it out of your mouth, stick it in the top of your crack where it belongs, and then start talking to me.
Here's a good here's a pointer, not a pointer. If the person is good enough to use that mouth call, then they can talk to you without you knowing that that son of a bitch is in their mouth.
I think
Ah,
that's true.
if that thing is slopping around like a freaking cough drop or like they're chewing on a freaking they got 6 toothpicks in their mouth, might be I don't know. It might be an inclination that
It's just a painful thing for me.
it's kind of like throwing a dip in, which I don't partake in, but if I feel like the seasoned veterans with that, like if you obviously if they're chewing a whole can in one time, it's you can't really hide it. But most of the guys, if they have a dip in, it's like you can see, but
If you're a
sometimes you
trained
can't.
if you're a trained professional, you can't see.
Not well.
No.
And if you can, just maybe take it out while you're talking to everybody.
Yeah, that's a major rule of thumb. Take that shit out while you're talking.
That's
Pisses
funny.
me,
It's a funny one.
pisses me off. Sorry, I'm adjusting my camera real
It's
quick.
yeah, it's mainly just that slopping around. Like
Oh,
it's like
so
you don't want to hear someone. You don't want to like hear them chewing.
no,
I don't know. It just
no, I do know. I don't want to hear that shit.
it's
I have no interest
like
in.
before I'm let me say a sentence and then hold on. I gotta with my tongue. I gotta flip this diaphragm call from this side of my mouth over to this side of my mouth.
And it's just like, yeah, I called this turkey in with this diaphragm call. I get it up. It's like, dude, just
Or
get
they're
rid
like
of it, bro.
talking to you.
Get
They
rid of it.
realize that they can't talk to you for a second with it in their mouth, and then they pull it out, and this like string of saliva is like attached to it, and
Oh
they're
my
like,
god.
and then they're like, well, what I was saying was,
Delete your video. Fucking delete it. It's disgusting.
goodness
And
gracious.
I love the two where you're like, you get like the guy, the people that like, they gotta let you know how they call. I mean, and I'm learning how to call with the diaphragm too. So, watching videos and stuff like that's not what I'm talking about. But it's like I got to go on my story and I got to show you how they call. So they get the hands moving, they get the hands over the face, and they give the yeah, 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 yeah. It's like, yeah, what are you, a freaking, what is this, charades or something? Nobody needs to, I don't know.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Oh my goodness. Hail bitch.
I know. You know what? I
I'm
can talk
sorry, that's
shit. I
just,
can talk shit because I'm not good at it. So
yeah.
usually I would say, if you're good at it, you could talk shit. But I'll tell you that I'm not good at it. But I'll tell you that if I was good at it, I wouldn't talk to you with
Like
my
that.
freaking diaphragm call doing somersaults in my mouth.
Yeah. Trying to get an Olympic gold on the balance beam in your mouth. We're good on that.
You're not good because you don't use them. You know what? There's an art to using a box call. And number
Yep,
one,
yep,
the
yep.
first art, the first art in Chautauqua County is keeping it dry. If you can do that alone, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But if you can also do that, self film and keep your
Yip on it.
movement down,
God bless.
I don't know.
I don't know. I
I
don't
don't know,
know.
man.
I don't know, man.
I don't know,
Man, I
man.
don't know, man. The hunting industry, the hunting community is so filled with like niche things within the hunting community. There's so many little niches. So like there's trends, but the I don't know, like you could not like a trend, or you could like if I'm a public land guy, or if I don't have access to private land, obviously I'm gonna be one of those like, yeah, public land. If you don't shoot on public land, you're a huge bitch. You're a huge bitch. If you don't hike in a mile and a half in the dark over logs and over frogs and over dogs and all this shit, like you're a huge bitch. You're a huge bitch. You're a huge bitch.
Yeah.
I'd probably be,
Yeah.
if that was the case, I'd probably be one of those people. But also in the flip side, you got the guys that are like more land managers. You got private land, and you're planting food plots, and you're putting invisible walls up around your property so the neighbors can't see in, and so they can't shoot your deer, and your deer are not going in or out of your property because you don't want anybody to touch or see your deer.
You're there.
I mean, that's a whole nother like end of the spectrum that's just like shit the fuck up. uh, I mean, it's just like you can be into either one of those things, but then I guess the troubling part of it is when you use one of those things to knock somebody that's on
Yeah,
the other end of the spectrum, or
don't
that's
don't use it as a weapon.
right. Just
Don't
hunt.
weaponize your tactic. Don't weaponize your hunting strategy. Because
Right.
if it's legal, go do it. But if someone else's tactic is legal and it's different than yours, let them do what they want to do. It's fine.
Yeah. What do you
It's
what do
fine.
you not what are you knocking them for? Because your mile and a half hike back into the timber, back into the public land, it didn't work? Or what are you knocking them for? Because your food plots and the thousands of dollars and time and money that you poured into your 14 acres didn't fucking work? Like what are you mad about? What are you mad about? There's no point in knocking anyone in the hunting community. Just like band together. So I guess for the trends portion of it, it's like there are different trends. There are different things that like maybe I agree with, maybe I don't agree with. But to your point, if you're doing it legally, hey, you get it done. Hey, how about good job? Hey,
How
how
about
about
good job?
congratulations?
I go back to it. If you're knocking another hunting tactic or strategy, the chances are you haven't done it.
For sure.
I'm not saying everybody's like that, but that's normally the case. And that's just even more foolish in my eyes. I mean, we've hunted public land. We've done the deer managing. I I en- I enjoy both.
Yeah, I enjoy both as well.
Like there's a different challenge with hunting public land, but I also taking the harvest portion out of it because with hunting public land, obviously you're learning the land and stuff like that, but that's mainly what it's focused on. I love just like making a property flourish from a deer standpoint to a turkey to any animal that's not a
Just
predator,
giving back to the land.
making the trees, everything grow good. Like that's another hobby and passion. So it's fun to watch that and be able to have your own property to do all that stuff on. It's a rewarding experience. Like
I
you're
agree.
giving back. You're putting a lot into the land and then you're seeing
Results.
results from it and you're like, this is awesome. I'm this big or this chunk of property is flourishing because of what I'm helping do to it. Like
Well,
what
and
I'm
I
putting
mean,
into it. It's a badass feeling.
you're affecting you're changing that specific property. So whatever the boundaries are, could be 40 acres, could be 140, it could be 640 acres. You're changing that landscape for the better. But the impact that you're having goes far beyond those walls that only we have as humans.
Yeah.
We only have those walls as humans. The animals don't have those walls. So your impact is going far beyond that. You know, it's no different. I mean, in the public land portion of it, like buying a hunting license, donating to conservation organizations and stuff like that that put money back into that public land that allow it to even be public and have people be able to hunt it in general. Like that's a whole nother, side of it. So we're as a land manager, as a public land manager, we're all kind of doing our part for the betterment of the hunting community itself. And I don't think that that's recognized nearly enough. I don't think that it's given credit nearly enough because as hunters, we're so easy to go bash somebody else about how they did something, what they shot, if it was big enough, if it wasn't. Like, it's mind boggling to me how it's changed. But I could tell you one thing, like, going back to it, and one of the things that we won't do anymore, especially on our land, but we grew up doing was man drives. Like, and that's like you're going in to hunt at that point. Like that's a completely like you're going in, you're looking for meat, you're coming out with cutlets. Like that's the mission. But the camaraderie that was shared during those times when we were growing up is why we're doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
100%. Like the camaraderie, the way that it made us as young boys feel like we were part of the men in that group is why we're doing it right now. And so as much as people will knock that and you know the hunting community and the hunting industry has evolved and changed, but as much as people will knock that, like that created the community. It
Yeah.
did. That allowed hunting to be a community because it was all for one and one for all in your group, in the group that was next to you, whatever. Like you had a deer on the back of the tailgate. It didn't matter if it was a doe, a button buck, a spike, a forker, or a 12 point. That thing was celebrated. Like it was celebrated. So there is a portion of me that kind of misses that
Oh, I missed it.
because it didn't matter it didn't matter what you got. It was the celebration of that animal and the life and the sacrifice and whatever. It didn't matter what was on its head, how big it was, how old it was. It didn't matter. Like it was a celebration. Hunting was a celebration regardless. And that's definitely missed in today's day and age, and I feel bad for the new hunters that are coming on board the sport because they're learning it in such a different way than we are, than we did. And then,
Yeah.
I
mean, honestly, if you have to kind of look at this in the reverse way, but if hunting was the way it was now when we were 5 and 6 years old, there's a chance that we may not be as into it as we are now. And that's something to look at as well, as far as getting new people into the sport and what you could.
Wait, say that again?
Like, if hunting was now the way what it was if hunting when we were 5 and 6 years old was what it is right now, like it was
Right.
heavily on land management and don't go into these areas. Let's let the deer come out like to us. Let's not pressure them. If it was that
Sit and
kind of,
wait. Yeah.
yeah, if we didn't have you know, we're going in there after this deer and we're going to see, we might feel differently about the sport right now. Like we
Oh,
might
yeah.
not have the same passion as we do right now.
I couldn't agree more.
So it's kind of tough because we're the ones
Promoting this style.
promoting this style, but does it get people into the sport? It may. Like some people may, just like we do, just like, man, I love doing some work on this property, or like I just love growing this crop and watching it grow, and like I did that, and then it results in all this and this with deer hunting, and like some people could get into that, but there's a different mentality when you go into the woods. Like when you're just holding a shotgun and you got some blaze orange on, and it you're just going to like stomp around in some bush and trying to kick out animals, and like, going into like a patch of cover, like, oh shit, like shit's about to come out of here right now. Like it's not like I'm going out there to wait for 5 hours and I have no idea when it's going to happen. It might not happen. Like shit's about to happen. It just might be a lot of shit or a little shit right now, but
Yeah.
shit's about to go down and this is going to be crazy. So it's a different feeling. You have a different like ampness going into that. But that ampness was part of what got us so passionate about the sport.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So,
It is weird to think about, like, us as young boys getting into the sport right now. What would we think of it? What would we think of it? And with all the people and all the saturation of YouTube channels and social media and TV shows still, like, where do you see yourself fitting in? I mean, part of the reason why we got into this, when we started filming and we wanted to put ourselves out there, was because we felt like there was a void that could be filled in the hunting industry, community, whatever, that we could fill. But now, where are the voids? Like,
yeah.
where are they? And what are you looking at and saying, man, like, I want to get into this because of this? Or, who are you following? Who's going to judge you for doing something a certain way? And do you feel like you're getting judged regardless in the process? And so that shies you away from enjoying it to the fullest. I don't know. That's a very interesting conversation, actually,
Really is. It
because
really is. Maybe the void
people,
is we need more man drives.
maybe we need to do more man drives.
There's always a point, like, again, I love the style of our hunting, and I think, yeah, there's a lot more to it than at the end of the day just the harvest. It is like the results and the work and watching the game flourish and this and that. But there are times, it could be end of November, December, whatever, where you've been you've been grinding all season, and you're just like, man, I need some old vintage action. Like I want to go
Hmm.
stomp some bush.
Like Manhunt Wednesdays.
Man Drive Wednesday. I would. It would be fun to have like two properties and one that you could just kind of go do that on. Not like you're not going to go beat the hell out of it, but every once in a while, like let's go small game hunt it, because that kind of small game is kind of the same way. Like let's just line a few guys up, let's walk through this cover, let's see if we can kick out some rabbits or a couple grouse, and
Yeah.
you're the thing is, like, when you're walking, kind of like I said, you're always ready. You're just like, oh shit, like it can
Right.
literally happen at any moment. And
Right.
it's so easy to feel the lackadaisical or like boring part of just the sitting part of it. Like, even though it could still happen at any moment, and it does, and it will, you get to these points where you're just like, it ain't fucking happening right now. Like,
Right.
it's just, I can feel it during the day. It just,
Well,
it ain't happening.
and then the distractions come in with your phone, with social media, and
Yeah,
you're like, that takes you out of that like nature element of it.
takes you out
It
of
does.
the,
And
yeah.
I'm not pointing the finger. I'm subject to it just as much as anybody else.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
do
half of the
100%.
time I get bored in the tree or something like that. I just start posting stories on Instagram, just fucking around because
You start scrolling, and then you're just, yeah, again, you can be doing that on your couch. So you kind of like
it takes you out of that nature element. And like, I mean, to your credit, like when you're like still hunting, when you're walking and stalking, or when you're in one of those, like, I guess, man drive like type situations, you don't have time for any of that shit. Like, it's like you're in a game of some sort. Like, you have to be locked into that moment.
you're
Like, you don't see anybody running down the basketball court checking their friggin', story or their Instagram account or anything like that. Like, you don't have time for that shit. Like, you are locked into what is in front of you.
yeah, and you're focused on every aspect of nature. Like, you're looking at everything, you're listening to
Right.
everything, like you're listening for any clue that there's something's
Game.
about to happen. Yeah, like if you hear a stick break, or like you see a tiny flash of something, like, and you'll see and hear those things because you're looking for them, you're listening for them. And when you get out of the game a little bit, like, whatever, if you get on your phone or whatever, like you said, sometimes you're just not, like, you're not scanning everything. You're not. So it's just a different. Yeah, it takes you out of that readiness, that focus on being one with where you're at.
Being one with the bush,
Being
which is
one with
important.
it is important. But yeah, it is. I think
Gets my brain moving a little bit. Like, how can we change? How can we help that? Because we can help that. We can.
maybe we need
But
to bring back Manhunt one, whatever we call them,
Manhunt Wednesdays,
Manhunt
MH,
Wednesdays,
MHW.
and it's not the waiting game.
It would be cool to do that. Like, even you could say pick a piece of public land or whatever, and hey, toss it out on social media. Hey, like, we're gonna meet up here at on Wednesday at 10 a.m. and we're gonna do a little booting around the bush a little bit and kind of orchestrate that. And I mean, with social media now, like, you legitimately could do something like that. Obviously, trusting most other people and stuff comes into play as well. But regardless, I mean, I think there's ways that we could revitalize some of that stuff and, yeah, get back to our roots a little bit. That'd be fun.
Still Hunt Sunday.
Still Hunt Sunday. SHS. Hashtag it, SHS. Still Hunt Sunday.
Hashtag it SHS. Here we go.
Can't do it in Pennsylvania, though.
No, you can't.
No SHS in Pennsylvania. Dumbest rule in the
Got to
history of
keep
rules.
MHW.
Oh, shit.
No
Well,
SHS. Got to go to MHW.
MHW, MHW.
Some good
Well,
topics today.
yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, it was really fun.
I think the last half of it was good conversation. Like, people can take that in and think about it a little bit, because we can all play a role in that. We can all help that. You
Get
know,
get
the
make
community of
Yeah,
hunting.
and just make it. It should be made more together. Not let's everyone, like, let me just knock your hunting tactic,
Right.
and then it should be, how can we make it more fun to get people involved, younger
Because
kids involved in sport. Anybody involved. Like you
well,
could be 40 years old and 50, whatever. You could be any age and be like, I've
you're
never been
new,
hunting. I want to get into it. And all of a
right.
sudden, boom, you have a new lifelong passion, like literally. So it's not just a young generation, but how can you make it appealing to get someone new in the sport?
Yeah, because, and this is a whole nother thought, but like the land management thing just kind of stretches the hunt out over a full year, because you're putting in work all year long to get to that ultimate like point of success. Where if you're just going out and still hunting, walking and stalking, doing man drives, like that, the hunt is packed into that couple hours or that day. Like that's the hunt. You're going hunting. You are going to pursue game,
Now,
to where the land management thing is you're doing all this work throughout the whole year, but then your pursuant is stretched over time and you're like you're pursuing really all year long. And then once the season comes, you're kind of using that what you've pursued all year long and then you go into the waiting game of like I'm going to this is kind of what I set the stage for, so I'm going to wait here
yeah,
for my opportunity. And I think that waiting portion of it, if you haven't put all that work in, like if you haven't been a part of the quote unquote hunt all year long, that waiting portion is doesn't hook people. It
it's
it
true. It
doesn't
doesn't.
it does not it doesn't hook people, and so that's where it gets lost. So the actual hunt needs to be brought back to the forefront, especially with new people, and let's figure out a way to fire it back up.
Or they should be in like if they could be involved in some of those
100%.
off-season practices that get people involved. But that's why I don't. And we like both, so we've seen both sides and we've done both sides. But that's what like these strictly public hunting people have. They're like, I just hate the comments that are like, "Oh, it must, yeah, so hard to sit in your blind or and just watch them waltz into a food plot and try to hunt public land. And we walk 2 miles and this and that." It's like you don't try to try to try to work all day in the summer from like whatever 8 to 6, and then go try to get 2 hours in of planting a food plot because you're putting in any hour, any extra hour you have
Right.
to improve your property all summer long. Like try to do all of that too. You're
That's
doing
your
you're you're doing all of that to create your hunt.
Yeah, that is your mile or 2 mile walk in.
Yeah,
That
and
is
it's
it.
not,
That's
and
it.
I can promise you, physically, financially, and mentally, it ain't easy. None of it's
Right.
easy.
So that your 2 mile walk as a public hunter is the 3-4 month period during the summer where you're setting the stage. That's your 2 mile walk in as a
Yeah,
landman. And as a public hunter, your land management or your preparation throughout the 3-4 months during the summertime is your mile to 2 mile walk in to give yourself an edge over the other hunters that have the right to hunt that exact same piece of property.
yeah. It's just how can you beat the smart animals in public land, and how can you beat other hunters? You're up against those two things. It's
Right.
just a different challenge. It's not.
Right.
It doesn't need to be one's better than the other. It's just a different challenge.
It's a different
So
challenge stretched over a different level of
period.
time. That's all it
Exactly.
is.
So we need to figure out utilizing both of those challenges, and however it is you want to get people involved,
How can we do it?
how can we make it more fun? How can you hook more people on that first try? Because honestly, that's the big one. Is if you get them out once and they don't like it, it's tough to get them out again, probably. So you got to get them hooked on that first one. And how can we do that?
How can we do it?
How can we do it?
That's the homework for y'all this week. How can we do it? We want messages on our social medias. How can we do it?
Couple of long beards, freaking kamikaze slapping a decoy and getting blasted helps.
That definitely helps. That absolutely helps.
Oh, well, folks,
I think it's time to part ways for
I think it's
us.
time to part ways with you all.
Well, Diener, I will see you in a couple short days. And yeah, looking forward to turkey hunting Camp Cutlet when this comes out. That turkey hunt will be subsiding, and we will have some more stories to tell. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Get ready for some WBC.
WBC baby.
Wet birds cruising.
Until then, y'all have a wet bird kind of week. Shake your feathers off. Make it a good week. Smile at somebody. Add some positivity to not only your own life, but maybe somebody next to you. You never know who needs it.
If you think about making a bad comment towards someone, challenge yourself to flip it. Make a good one, and see what it does to your day.
Ooh, that's a
See
good
what
one.
it does to your day. I'm challenging you all to do that. If you want to say
Again,
something bad, flip it. Say something positive, and see what it does to your day.
wow,
How about that?
That's powerful stuff. Goose chasers, it's been real.
Love y'all. We'll see you right here next week.
God bless.
God bless.